Today's visual novel is Grisaya no Kajitsu, or Fruit of Grisaya. And no, I don't know what that title signifies at all. I have no idea what Grisaya is, even though I've played the entire game. And yes, I know that the fruit are represented by the girls, but I have no idea why they're represented by fruit, and I have no idea why each fruit represents them. I don't know what it signifies, and I'm sorry. The best way to describe this game, though, is that it's a mixture of Sharin no Kuni with Full Metal Panic. That's how I would describe the whole story, and that's how I would describe the main character. It's basically a fusion of Sakura, Sosuke, and Kenichi. And by the way, if you have not read Sharin no Kuni, please read that first before playing this game. No, it does not have any link to this game, but I highly recommend you play it first, because quite honestly, it's a better game for one thing, and yeah, it will give you a good feel of this kind of visual novel. So, on to the review. As said before, you play as Kazame Yuji, a suspicious guy that obviously is revealed early on that he has some sort of military background that is revealed not too subtly and sometimes subtly. But he gets transferred into an academy that is full of, you guessed it, all girls except for him. Lucky guy, I know. And while he's there, at first, you're not sure why he wants to transfer in. Apparently, he just wants to transfer in. There's no real deep reason behind it. However, this academy is a special place, obviously. It's built for girls or people, because Yuji's there too, that have special needs. Obviously, each of the girls and him have some sort of either psychological or social problem. As such, the girls are actually represented by anime tropes. We have a maid, a tsundere, a kudere, an emoto, and a perfect big sister. Yes, they are represented by very stereotypical anime tropes. And you might be like, well, are they very shallow characters then? No. Actually, the point of this game is to show you, I hope I'm not spoiling too much by saying this, is to show you how a real person might become like an anime trope. And that's basically the whole premise of every route and and the whole game in general, which is good and all. And all the characters have a lot more depth in them than meets the eye, trust me. However, there is going to be one major problem with players in this game, and that is the pacing. This game is incredibly slow, regardless of any route you play. It is incredibly slow. The common route is outrageously long. I believe it's longer than Rewrites, and it might be longer than Little Busters. It basically feels like the common route all by itself is like watching 26 episodes of anime just for the common route. No, you do not get much plot in it at all in that common route. So it is just, slice of life comedy actions. It's just a way for you to bind with the characters like any other common route in any other visual novel. And that's fine. I actually quite enjoyed it, but I know many players, they did not like how long they had to wait, and quite honestly, I don't know why those players play visual novels at all, because, that's kind of how visual novels are, but, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot better written than a lot of common routes. The comedy is really good. Yuji is a very, very humorous main character, and he's very likable, so that actually helps a lot. A common route can... This game kind of reminded me that how much a good main character can make a visual novel more enjoyable, because so many visual novels, they kind of just have the main character there so that you can roleplay as them, and they won't be given that much personality, but that's not the case with Yuji, so don't worry about that. And the girls are all fairly likable. I think the only one where it might take some time to get used to is Yumiko, and I guess some people get annoyed by Michiru. My girlfriend particularly likes her the most, so your mileage will of course vary. Don't worry about that. Just play it, see which girls you like the most, and also don't worry about what order you play the routes in. They are presented in a specific order. I believe they're presented as Machina first, Amane second, Sachi third, Michiru fourth, and then finally Yumiko for the last one. But it does not matter what order you play them in. They're all standalone routes for the most part. And there is no true end because this game has sequels that have not been translated yet. But don't worry, you can play this game without worrying about the sequels. Yes, you will not get the entire story, but the routes do stand by themselves for the most part. So do not worry about, sequels. I was kind of worried about that, but that didn't happen. If you just wanted to play this game, you could just play this game and be done with it, but there will be sequels that further explore the story. The biggest problem I think this game has outside of the pacing is, I don't want to spoil too much, but I want to say that Yuji as a character is not handled particularly well. Yes, he is likable, I did say that, but I don't feel like his character is handled particularly well. And I don't want to spoil too much, but it feels like he is a little bit too convenient of a main character, if I want to say it. It doesn't even make sense sometimes, and I'll go into that when I go into the spoiler part of this review. But I want to say that him in general, he is the weakest part of the game, and the reason he is the weakest part of the game is because they don't fully explore his characters, because that is what the sequels are for. And unfortunately, it kind of feels like this game is so long that they could have trimmed it down and included the sequel content in it, and then it would have, been a little more fulfilling, instead of they had to make two separate games just to expand on Yuji's character more. It's like, come on, And it kind of interferes with some routes because of that. And I want to say that is the biggest weakness. And like I said, it's really, 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 really long. Like, every route is as long as a route in Rewrite. Might be even longer than routes in Rewrite, not sure. But if you've played Rewrite, you know how ridiculously long these routes are, like double the length of any other, or sometimes triple the length of most heroine routes in visual novels. So yes, if you're like me, and you like to listen to the voice acting, then yes, it's going to take you quite a long time to read it. This is why I haven't done many reviews lately, because I've been reading Grisaya for the last 2 months. It's taken me forever to read this game. If you like to click, 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 and you can just read through the visual novel, then it probably won't take you that long. Well, it'll still take you longer than other visual novels, but just be prepared for quite a long visual novel. It's not as long as Rewrite, but it's really long. So basically, the people I recommend this visual novel to the most is people who do not need constant excitement. If you need constant excitement and need constant, action going, then don't read this one, because it's super slow, and I know a lot of people got bored reading it, because this is more for people who really, really care about character depth, because that's what it's for. It's for the girls to have a lot of character depth. It's also for people who like clever writing to an extent. It's not really for people who like a complex plot, because unfortunately it really doesn't have that either. I'll go into that. But if you really, really like character depth and going into the psychological nature of characters, then you will love this visual novel. If you do not, then you will not like this visual novel. I can almost guarantee you will get bored and quit it before you are even close to done. However, if you are really a stickler for pacing, then I would read Yumiko's route, because I believe it's the best paced route in the whole game. I would stay away from Machina and Sachi's, because those routes are incredibly slow. And so, they're decent, but they're incredibly slow. So, I would recommend playing every route if you could, but if you must, only play Yumiko's. I've heard some people get disappointed with Yumiko's route. I don't see it. I'll go into it in the spoiler. So yes, that's who I would recommend this visual novel to. I'm gonna go into spoiler territory now, like always, so if you don't want to get spoiled, don't go past here. The first route I read was Amane, and the beginning of her route was a little much at times. They used a little too much perverted humor, and you were more just kind of, there's a lot more sex scenes in her route than the other routes. There's like 5 compared to everyone who has like 2 or 3. It's a little a slow start, quite honestly, and you're just kind of, wanted to get into the part where you actually learn why Amane acts the way she does. It doesn't last that long, it's not too slow, but the beginning is a little kind of I will say, because, you don't really buy the romance between Amane and Yuji. It's not really the most believable romance in the world. It's cute, but I wouldn't call it believable. And obviously, it's not supposed to be believable because Amane is still acting like that perfect big sister. She's not being her real self. And then you are finally revealed a plot point about her where she meets, she doesn't meet, but her old classmates find her and, call her name, and Yuji's curious about it, if she got bullied before, and what she did. And this is because she was in an incident, I forgot how many years ago it was, but she was in an incident and it actually involved Yuji's sister Kazuki. And it goes into a flashback. And this flashback is ridiculously long. It's pretty much her route. Her route is basically the flashback. And don't worry about that because it is excellent. And I'm just going to say it as a placeholder that the flashbacks in every route, because every route has a flashback, for the most part, except for one route, they are the strongest part of the game. Like every route, the flashbacks are the strongest part of every route. And that is because you really get to get into the girl's head. Amane, you get to see how much of a believable character she is. She is not the most ideal character in the world, you see, like she makes herself out to be. And she might even annoy you at times, but you get to see that she is a very, very human person, and that was very nice to see. But if you're one who just likes really cool characters, then yeah, you might get annoyed by her. And you might like Kazuki more because she is a really cool kind of almost unnaturally perfect person in a way, but she's very humorous and very enjoyable character. And yeah, but basically they've gotten into a bus accident with her basketball team, and they fell off a cliff, so they're kind of trapped. And some of the basketball members died. Some of them are just injured. Some badly, some not so badly. Kazuki just has an arm injury, and others are just fine. Their basketball coach is there too, but mainly, this is a survival route, and it's excellent. It's just so good, because if you've ever read Battle Royale, if you've ever read Suicide Island or any of those manga, it's not quite that extreme, but it is, very good because of the psychological tension between just they're trapped. They have no way out. They do not know where to go. They don't have a whole lot of food on them, and some of them are hurt badly, and some of them are that need real medical treatment, can't get it, so they're kind of going crazy, unfortunately, because one girl has this itch that she's she's infected or something, and she has this itch and she keeps scratching up her skin because it's so itchy, and she can't do anything about it because they really don't have a lot of treatment for her. And 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 they're lacking food, so it kind of goes on and builds up on and on how their state of mind kind of deteriorates outside of Kazuki. And it's a really, really nice route. The build-up is near perfect. And what it builds up to is an incredibly shocking finale of, basically they start... I predicted this, but it was still shocking because I didn't think the game would go that dark, but they basically start eating each other. And some of them just go flat out insane. And then Amane and Kazuki have to basically make a break for it. And yeah, it's Kazuki lets Amane kind of escape one direction while she kind of distracts the people chasing them because they're gonna freaking eat them. And yeah, it's good. It's so good. And actually, my girlfriend was watching. My girlfriend was watching behind me, and she was just really immersed in it. And that's the thing about this route; it really, really immerses you because the setting is so good and the build-up is so good. You're just wondering what the heck is going to come out of this situation. You already know everyone dies except for Amane, and quite honestly, you know Kazuki is still alive because they never really found her corpse, but you don't know where she is. The game never tells you. My guess it's in the sequels, it's just so good because I love this stuff. If you love just this psychological tension stuff, you will love this route. It is so dang good. And of course, the reason Amane feels the need to act perfect around Yuji and around everyone is because she feels guilty that she was the only one who survived this route. And after she reveals this all to Yuji, he's of course shocked, but it makes it so she doesn't have to act perfect anymore, and so she's a little more human. Her relationship's toned down. She doesn't act like a sexual slut like she's been acting like. And then there is one final part to the route, and that is this guy that was one of the fathers of one of the basketball team members who died. He basically has gone insane too. He wants to kill Amane because he feels like she shouldn't have survived, and if his daughter died, and so he goes after Amane. This part is kind of creepy, kind of good, but of course, he doesn't stand a chance against Yuji, so he kind of just takes him out, I mean, it's not that simple, but, it does, you already knew that he wasn't going to be much of a problem for Yuji. You already knew that. And then it goes into the ending segment, which shows Amane all the way to when she's a grandma. And, I don't know if I ever truly buy the romance between Yuji and Amane. I mean, Amane actually has romantic feelings for Yuji, but obviously, it feels like the one she really loves is Kazuki. I'm not trying to just be a lesbian lover, and I'm not just trying to be because I love red hair and silver hair, and because they started to have, obviously Amane started to have romantic feelings for Kazuki, and yeah. I like redheads and silverheads the best, and that's why the game was trying to kill me with this route. Trying to kill me. But yeah, the ending is pretty sweet. It goes all the way to the point where, she has a granddaughter and all that, and she doesn't think she'll make it to heaven, but, the ending sequence shows that Yuji and her go to heaven together. It's a little, overdramatic, but it's sweet. If there's one problem with this route, I would say is they didn't go enough into, like I said, they didn't go enough into present day Yuji and Amane romance when her problem was fixed. They just kind of spent the whole route in the flashback. Not that that's a big problem because the flashback is the best part of the route, but it would have been nice if they had, used a little more time to devote their romantic development a little more and showed her present self get the proper development. But then again, she got plenty of characterization during the flashback, and you got to see her true self during there, so it's not a huge deal, but it would have been nice. And I'm sure I'll be happy by the time the sequels hit, when we get to see more Kazuki, and when Kazuki and Amane probably finally meet up again. Don't know if that's gonna happen, but I can almost guarantee it will. And yeah, it was it was just my favorite route in the game, no question about it. Nothing even comes close to it. The other routes are good, but this one was by far the best, if you ask me. It's just nothing beat the tension and the build-up that this route had. And it was just really, really good. And I think another thing that was funny about this route is that Yuji's not in it very much, and I kind of think that actually helped because just because Yuji in these routes isn't as interesting as you think he would be. But, I mean, he's a good character, but he's not as interesting as Kenichi is in Shara no Kuni, so whatever. The second route I played is Sachi, and, you know, Sachi is a very, very likable character. She's kind of just this maid who will do whatever you ask her of, but she'll still have this, like, bitch side where she'll subtly be a bitch to you. And, that's always very, very amusing. But her route involves Yuji wanting to help her because, obviously, there's something wrong with this woman. She will do whatever you ask her of, no matter what it is. And, he wants to help her with that because obviously, she can't go on in life like this, otherwise someone would tell her to do something bad, and she would do it. And she has done it before. Her flashback is obviously the best part of her route too, but it's not as long as Amane's or, well, no one's flashback is as long as Amane's, but, you know, it's still a good chunk of her route. You get to see that she's actually guilty because she believes she's the one responsible for her father's death and her mother's impairment because she was being selfish as a girl because she doesn't know what her mother was trying to say to her when she died. I mean, obviously, all the stuff that happened before that kind of built up to this, and it was very, very nice to see. Yeah, I know I'm kind of abridging the story, but I just want to kind of roll along here. And, yeah, it's really well done, actually. You know, the just her frustration with her parents and with Yuji as a kid leaving her is just, it's built up perfectly, too. And then you get to see, you know, she decides that after that she thought it was because she was a bad girl, you know, 10 years old. And so she decided she's going to be a good girl and just do whatever anyone tells her to do because that is what signifies being a good girl. And yeah, it makes her go to another school, and no matter what anyone tells her, she will do it. And of course, a bully finds out that she's like this, and, you know, pretty much makes her slave and does whatever she wants, and quite honestly goes so far as to make Sachi burn down the school. She doesn't tell her to burn down the school. She tells her to get rid of all these tests because she doesn't want to deal with them. And so what does Sachi do? She burns down the school. And, yeah, it's quite extreme. Obviously, this is a problem that needs to be fixed. You can see how it happened, and so you can see how she became that perfect maid archetype, because she just felt so guilty, and she felt like this was the only way. However, what Yuji tries to show her is that it's just not that simple. You know, there's shades of gray. You can't just following what everyone does says for you to do, and what everyone expects you is not always the best choice. And, you know, it's just not that easy. And so Yuji tells her that, oh, well, Michiru wants to not get these tests done. So what happens is Yuji's like, okay, Sachi, get rid of the test again. So she wants to set fire to the school again. But Yuji says that isn't gonna work, you know? I mean, she's like setting up all this stuff because she can't figure out how to get rid of the school again. But she realizes, oh, well, let me slow down a bit. Well, she realizes that she can't set fire to the school because it's not made the same way. So Yuji's like, let me help you. And player's like, what the heck? And So what they do is they set plastic explosives all over the school and blow it to smithereens. And this causes Sachi to finally realize that, oh, I can't just follow what other people tell me to do, because I really was attached to that school and I really did not want to do that. And that was kind of what she needed. She needed some bit of force. And this is one of the problems with the game. It's like Yuji, he just knows perfectly, despite, like, he knows exactly what he needs to do to fix problems at times. He's a little too convenient. And it's like, yes, it's an extreme method, but it's like, how did he know this was going to work so well? I mean, maybe he didn't, but it does feel a little like, how do you know that would work? This guy who doesn't really understand women that well, this guy who's like Sagara Sosuke when it comes to understanding people, like, okay, he's not that bad, and it's a little bit of a stretch, I want to say. There's not enough struggle with him and the girls. I mean, this happens in almost every single route, except for Makina's, but I'll get to that last. And, unfortunately, even though that solves the problem of, her realizing she can't just follow whatever people say to be a good girl, she still has one other problem. She still feels the guilt from her mother's last words and her mother's condition. And, this creates a extreme, psychological kind of state for her, where she just kind of gets nightmares and just gets extreme headaches. And so what Yuji decides to do is, like, he's got to figure out how to fix the problem. And once again, he kind of knows exactly what to do, almost. It's a double stretch. But whatever, you take it, and don't take this game too seriously. Like, take it seriously when it's being serious, but don't take it to the extreme, because sometimes the game can be a little silly with certain things. Obviously, blowing up the school with plastic explosives to solve a girl's psychological problems, yeah, it's a little bit of a stretch, but, don't take it too seriously. And, so, he tells her that she needs to kill something, and what Sachi was thinking is, like, do I need to kill my mother because she's the cause of my guilt, so I need to get rid of her? But no, she needs to just kill her problem itself. She needs to decide for herself. And what they do is they get the keys for this machine workshop that her parents worked at, and this was the place that her parents were spending so much time with, and they weren't spending time with her. And what she finds inside when she decides to finally go inside, like, at one point she's like deciding to kill her mother or not, and she decides, no, I'm not going to kill my mother, obviously. So Yuji says, you need to go in there and accept reality for what it is. And what she finds inside is a bunch of pictures of her parents and all that stuff. And, not her parents. What am I talking about? She finds a bunch of pictures of herself and all the times that her parents missed and how proud of her they were. And, it's a really, really, really sweet ending, I will say. It's very good. It's the best ending in the game. That's right, it's the best ending in the game. And really heartfelt, sweet. The scene is done near perfectly. And honestly, yeah, her route is great. It's really, really good. And the only problem with her route is obviously Yuji being a little too convenient, but that's a problem in every single route. So, and the other problem is it's a little on the slow side. It's a little too long. It could have been trimmed down quite a bit to keep the pacing better, but it's still a good route. There were times I got kind of bored, but it's a good route. And thankfully, you know what I like about this game is it doesn't have insincere conclusions. I bet this ending will, have her mother wake up from her coma. And no, that doesn't happen. you know, and I'm like, thank God, you know, I'm like, is it that so hard to have a sincere route where, you know, not everything needs to end perfectly, but you can still have a happy ending? This just shows you that. That's why this is such a good ending. It shows that you can have a happy ending without everything having to end perfectly, where the author doesn't have to, you know, take off his where he has no balls, you know, where the author did have balls in this game. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Third route I played was Michiru. Michiru's route is odd. I will just say that. It's odd. You will have to sustain your disbelief the most in this route. If you don't like doing this, you probably won't like this route that much. But if you don't mind doing it, and you can watch stuff like Gurren Lagann with a straight face and be totally into it, then yeah, you'll be okay. It's nowhere near that extreme, by the way. But the main thing in this route is you figure out that Michiru has a split personality, and not the split personality part that's unbelievable. It's how she obtained the split personality through heart surgery, and the other person that she got the heart from kind of is inner. Yeah, it's a little much, I will agree, but it's not bad. Just roll with it, you know. It's one of those routes you just kind of gotta roll with and get entertained with what it has to say. The split personality that Yuji discovered basically wants to kiss Yuji, and he's like, okay, because Yuji just doesn't care. You see, the thing about Yuji is he doesn't seem to care if a woman wants to do something. He only cares when a woman is obviously being fake, or he doesn't trust their behavior. He feels like they're being insincere. That's probably like the only reason why he didn't just take Amane right away, because he doesn't feel like her behavior and her love for him is sincere. But he doesn't care if someone's just like, hey, wanna have sex? And he's like, yeah, okay. This kind of boggles his mind. He was like, well, what the heck was up with her, you know? And Michiru, the normal Michiru, the not split personality, was like, well, why are you acting all weird of me? And it's like, well, because you did something strange to me. And she's like, what? And he kisses her. And this causes her to fall instantly in love with Yuji. Because, yeah, she's really simple-minded as a character. I mean, this has already been revealed. She's a really simple-minded character. And, of course, you know, she makes these, you know, Michiru's the character who's playing the tsundere, so she's not going to be honest at all through this route. And that might annoy you, but if you get entertained with her behavior, like my girlfriend did, she has not played this route yet, so I don't know her opinion on it, but she loves Michiru the most, so she'll probably love this route. So what happens is summer vacation occurs, and everyone leaves except for Michiru and Yuji, conveniently. You know, this route's not taking itself that seriously at points, you know, this is kind of a route that just wants to have a little fun at times. So what happens is, Michiru asks Yuji, I think this is how it goes, yeah, she asks Yuji if they can go on play dates. They're not going on real dates because she's too dishonest with herself to go on real dates. And so that's what they do, and Yuji starts to have fun, and of course she acts like really pumped up about him, and you know, their relationship is obviously very forced at this point. I mean, obviously Yuji doesn't buy her behavior very much, and it's kind of funny at times, and you might think, well, it's forced, that's a bad thing, right? No, because there is a reason it's forced. I don't mind. I feel like people take when a relationship is forced way too far. It's like, it feels forced, you know? And it's like, it's okay for a relationship to start out forced, for one thing, because kind of that's what a lot of couples in real life are. They're a little awkward around each other at first. It's not perfect around each other at first. Some people are completely natural with each other's, others aren't. They need some time, and that's kind of how this one is. I mean, it grows a little more natural, but there is a reason why Michiru is acting this romance seems so forced, mainly because Michiru won't be honest with herself. Eventually, she learns that her split personality part is real, and the problem with that is her split personality self is trying to help Michiru, and what she does is she will whenever something really dramatic happens to Michiru that she doesn't like, her split personality will come out and try to fix the problem for her. And the problem with that is that Michiru feels that, that she isn't worth anything, because her split personality just seems that much better than her. And this is really aggravating to her. However, Yuji just tries to tell her that, you should just believe in yourself, you should just trust yourself. Obviously, he doesn't phrase it quite like that because that would be cheesy, and that's how Kenichi would phrase it. That's the difference between Yuji and Kenichi, is Kenichi's a little more cheesy than Yuji is. But that's the gist of what he's trying to say, but she just is adamant she cannot accept the way that she is. And this is why she doesn't feel like she can keep on going out with Yuji, because she just doesn't feel like she's any good for him, and she feels like the other girl, the other split personality, fits him better. And when everyone else comes back, she just gets more and more insecure and more jealous when they spend time with Yuji, because she just feels like everyone is a better fit for him than her. She just doesn't have any confidence in herself. And this is why her romance with Ryuji seems so forced at times, because she won't allow herself to be herself because she doesn't have any confidence in herself. And eventually you're given her flashback. And what happens is, basically, Michiru is born into a really rich family, but she is not, the most competent person in the world. She's probably just a normal girl, maybe slightly below average when it comes to academics and all that stuff. And unfortunately, her dad will bash her tutors, and then her tutors will come back at her and treat her like crap. And since Michiru has no confidence, she won't ever tell her dad about it, and they will hit her and all that stuff, and just do terrible things to her, make her feel like crap, and it makes her incredibly socially awkward, and she feels like she has no worth. And then she meets a friend that eventually wants to kill herself, She meets her on the rooftop, and she was gonna jump off, and Michiru wanted to do the same thing. She was driven to kill herself because she felt like she didn't have any worth in her. Fortunately, at first, Michiru is able to convince her not to jump, and they become friends. And this girl is, bullied around school and is called a slut, and everyone says that all these horrible things. I'm sure anyone who's gone to school has seen people act like this before. It's pretty realistic, actually, and that's what makes it a little painful to read at times. And, this girl who is obsessed with this guy, but is still trying to be really good friends with Michiru. Her problem is that she's obsessed with this guy, but this guy doesn't give a crap about her. Unfortunately, I've seen girls who have done the same thing, and I've seen guys who have done the same thing when it involves partners, and it's painful to watch at times, where, someone just cannot let themselves let go of someone who is no good for them, and it just happens. I have no idea why it happens, it just does, and eventually she does just kill herself, and this causes extreme shock to Michiru, because she feels like she couldn't help her friend, she couldn't even commit suicide with her friend or anything like that. She felt like she was worthless even more than before. And then she gets a heart transplant because she had a bad heart condition as a kid, so, that doesn't help either. And the split personality comes in, tries to fix problems with Michiru, tries to make everyone like her a little more, but whenever her normal self comes out, everyone's a little what? Why are you acting like that? And eventually Michiru tries to kill herself, basically. She tries to rip her heart out, or stab her heart, because she wants her other personality out, because she feels like she's going insane, basically. And this gets her transported into a hospital, in which case she starts to realize that, off of a few behaviors where she acts really clumsy, that people start to laugh at her. And this is why she just feels like, okay, I won't even act like myself anymore. I'm just gonna act like an idiot all the time because at least people will accept me more that way and people like me more when I act like that. And yeah, her flashback's excellent. I loved it. And it's really, really dramatic. I mean, you knew something was wrong with Michiru. You just didn't know what it was. You didn't know if it was a split personality or more to it. And, it's just good. The flashbacks are good. I love them. And then Yuji has a little bit of trouble with her actually because a whole lot of trouble for Yuji, but trouble for Yuji, okay? It still gets solved a little conveniently. At first, Yuji just says she needs to go to the hospital, and she does that, and her split personality comes back, and, I don't know, I guess Michiru just felt, well, this is the end. I'm not coming out ever again. But Yuji eventually forces her out by knocking her out and putting her in a casket and showing to all the other girls that she is dead when she's not actually dead. And all the other girls are really, really shocked by that. Especially Yumiko, which you don't expect. And it's to show, and he even ends up burying her and giving her a phone and saying, if you want out, call me, I'll let you out. And that's when Michiru has to decide for herself that, hey, I actually am worth it. People actually do like me for who I am, because all the girls around her knew she was just putting on that tsundere act that she was just doing so she could be more normal around people. And, and she realized that people actually do care for her. Her split personality comes out. They have a dialogue that's really neat. And yay, Michiru finally figures out that she wants to, get out and that she's worth it, and she actually just wants to act like her normal self again. She doesn't want to be a tsundere. She just wants to go out with Yuji for real this time. No play games, no fake personality or anything like that. And she's just gonna be herself, and and it's really sweet. But that's not the end. Guess what? Because Michiru actually feels like she wants to help her split personality because she feels like she has a problem too, and that she wants to meet her parents again. She goes back and, this is where it gets ridiculous. Yuji summons a plane. It's like, okay, let's go solve it. Let's go meet your parents, split personality person. And that's silly. Obviously, there's silly things in this game, but it's funny, This is a route that doesn't take itself too seriously, so just go with it. They go to America in a couple of hours, and they're like, oh, we're in America now. She meets her mother, finds out her father died, and gets to talk with her. And, she is hesitant to talk too much about her, but Michiru comes out, and this is when Michiru and her split personality are able to interchange whenever they want, and says that, that she's friends with her dead daughter or whatever. But before that happens, you actually get a flashback with her split personality. 2 awesome flashbacks in one route. That's a winner right there. And it's really good. I mean, this girl got into an accident, and it kind of shows how a parent and 2 parents might stress out and go through a lot with this unconscious child, and who can hear her parents but can't actually say anything, can't move, can't do anything, really. And it's really, really good. It's really, really good. And thankfully, the ending is happy, but not perfect. Her father died, unfortunately. Her mother's still alive. They write letters. She'll never be able to tell her mother that, that it's actually her, but, it's as happy as an ending it can be without being too insincere. And, I like this route a lot. I mean, you got 2 flashbacks in it. What more could you ask for? And, I think the biggest problem people have with this route is either they're annoyed by Michiru in general, so obviously, if you don't like a character, it's kind of hard to enjoy their route at times. They might think that the romance with Yuji is forced, but like I said, it's completely intentional, you know? Once it stops it stops being forced at the end, so it's completely intentional. So, no problem with that. Then we have Yumiko, and she's kind of known to be the main chick of this game. She's like the first system voice you get, and she's like the last one revealed, and she's also in the opening credits. Like, it's like she's the main chick, and I can sort of see why she's the main chick, because her romance with Yuji is easily the best. No contest. She has the best romance with Yuji in the game. It's the most believable, and it's just overall the best. There's nothing else to it. But before I get ahead of myself, let's go into it. Basically, her father is an asshole. Yeah, that's right, he's an asshole. And he wants Yumiko to stop being so stubborn and come back home and take over for him. Well, not take over, but learn to take over, so that she can eventually take over. But Yumiko doesn't want that. She doesn't want anything to do with that company. And so what happens? He gets the idea that he'll scare her by, having Yuji, not Yuji, but having a bunch of bodyguards come after her, and, well, they're not bodyguards, I guess, if they're coming after her, but a bunch of men come after her and say that, oh, that's a way to get her scared, and so that she'll eventually want to come back where she feels more protected. It's a little illogical, I'll have to say, but whatever. He was just being an asshole, so he wasn't really putting a lot of thought into it, I don't think. And so he employs Ichigaya, which is Yuji's employer, to basically be her bodyguard, but so that he can protect her, but still keep her on her toes. And so that's what happens, and Yuji starts hanging out with Yumiko, and at first she's really annoyed by it, but she's like, whatever, fine. I mean, at first she's not supposed to know he's following her, but she figures it out, and then he tells her, and then, yeah. But once he finally protects her for the first time, she falls in love with him, because no one's ever done something like that for her before, and she's a little more simple-minded than she appears to be. This is probably why she and Michiru get along a little more than it seems like they should, because they're simple-minded. This is why she likes Michiru and kind of understands her. But yeah, all the girls pick on her for it, and she eventually reveals that, yes, I do like Yuji, but it's only one-sided love. And so it goes on, and the bodyguards keep coming, but eventually her dad's like, okay, take Yuji away. Yuji's like, I'm done following you around from here on out, Yumiko, and she's really shocked because she doesn't want that. She wants to spend more time with him, and so she employs him herself. And this gets the dad really irritated, so he starts sending bigger and better bodyguards at him, and Yuji eventually gets hurt by them. And this causes Yumiko to unemploy him pretty quickly afterwards, because she doesn't want him to get hurt because of her. And this makes Yuji feel like all kinds of crap, and all that stuff. Eventually it comes to the point where Yuji's like, he doesn't accept that, and he wants to just run away with Yumiko. And so that's what they do. They run away. And they start living together in an apartment, and, he's... But, okay, wait, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I keep doing that, sorry. Before any of this happens, though, we're revealed Yumiko's flashback. Basically, Yumiko's mother is married to her father, but she becomes inadequate because she's so sick and all that stuff, and I think he just gets kind of tired with her. And so he makes her go live back with her parents, and her parents are really disappointed with her and Yumiko because forgot already. It's because the mother is too sickly to bear many children, and the only one she bared was Yumiko, but the person wanted a boy. So he's rather ticked about that, and he finds her worthless, because he wanted a male heir. And so Yumiko and her mother go back to live with her grandparents, and they're disappointed with her and said that she should have, tried to give birth again, even though she's not healthy enough for that. And, it's a really uncomfortable situation for Yumiko because her grandparents do not like her at all. And, basically that happens. Her mother eventually needs to be hospitalized because of the psychological problems. She's not very, much like Michiru, she's not very good with people in general because people kind of treat Yumiko like crap. So this is a very low confidence girl, so the only thing she really has for joy is to see her mother, which isn't very joyful because her mother's kind of in a very depressed state, and this caretaker that eventually takes care of her, the only one who's really nice to her, and eventually she passes away too, so it's really kind of from there. And eventually, this reporter who's coming by to see Yumiko says that, he has information that Yumiko's father actually has a son from a mistress. And it's in a paper that he's probably gonna get divorced to her mother. And this freaks Yumiko out because it'll do damage to Yumiko's mother's psychological state, in which it does. It causes extreme damage, and and eventually, she's rather ticked at her father, but her father eventually comes back and says he wants Yumiko to live with her. And why? Because his male son heir died, so now his only option is Yumiko because it's just too late for anything else. So makes you wonder. I guess he really, really wanted a male heir, but I guess he was gonna pick Yumiko anyway. Obviously, I don't think a whole lot of thought was put into this, but whatever. And he brings Yumiko back and is treating her all nice, but she's still, inside kind of pissed at him because it's the cause of her mother's extreme psychological state. But he's treating her all nice, so she's confused on how she should act because not many people have treated her nice in her life in general. And, classmates are starting to treat her a little nicer too. But unfortunately, everything is an act from her father to her classmates, and once she figures this out, she basically gets so pissed that she stabs someone, and this causes her to go into the school that her father built that it basically to enclose her in and keep her away from society. And this is why Yumiko is so distant from everyone, because she can't trust them, because she feels like when people are nice to her, it's just an act. She really likes it when people are nice to her, but she just feels that she cannot trust them. Though she does eventually start trusting Yuji, and especially when they're living together. But on the other hand, while they're living together, the problem is, well, obviously they're getting chased after, and she feels like and Yuji has to work his ass off every day while Yumiko is kind of incompetent at housework and all that stuff. She slowly feels like she's a huge burden to him and feels like that he's the reason he has to do all this stuff that's really stressful. And eventually this causes her to call her father, but she hangs up immediately, but they're still able to track her based on that. This normally would have been a stupid action, yes, and you could see it as a stupid action, but, the build-up with her insecurity of herself is, slowly and subtly done, so it's, you could see why she might do something like that. And eventually, they run off to some other place, and Yumiko's superbly depressed because she just feels like she is just a waste of time to Yuji. And Yuji grants her her wish by taking her to this fair. Fair. Man, why can't I think of the name of those kind of places? Whatever. It's a play park. Whatever those are called. Why can't I think of the name? I'm sorry. Brain fart. Whatever. And this pretty much changes everything around for her, because this is her one wish. She just wanted to go somewhere like this with someone she really loved. Her family, mainly her family, but she went with Yuji and she had the time of her life there, and that really turns her mood around, and she finally decides with Yuji that she wants to basically confront her father. Now, this part of the game is a little hard to believe again. Apparently, her father is not in the best standings with other companies around him, and while Yuji and Yumiko were in hiding, he and the other girls, they were behind the scenes, and his company behind the scenes, trying to influence the other directors on basically to get him to step down from his position, and that way he wouldn't be able to chase Yumiko anymore. This is very fast, it's rushed, and I don't know about this solution. I think this is where some people were disappointed with her route, is that the resolution seemed way too convenient and easy, but that's kind of how every route is, in a way, is that the resolution can be a little convenient, but thankfully it doesn't end there. Yes, he does have to step down, but thankfully it doesn't end there. Yumiko actually feels like he can somewhat, she doesn't want to hate him forever, and she feels like there's still some good left in him. No reason for her to think that. It's just, I guess she felt like, that there was good left in her. So, and people gave her a chance, even though she pretty much gave up. And so she wants to do the same thing for him, and that's what she does. And it's a really sweet ending with that, because you see that her father actually, he was just doing this because he was a puppet and to his father, and that that he was actually following around where his ex-wife and Yumiko kind of lived, and he was just trying to understand maybe what they went through. He couldn't really understand it because, it's just not that easy to understand, because he wasn't living the life they were. And it's actually, he eventually says that even though he might not be able to become the loving father that she wants him to be, that he, wants her to be happy. And, she gives him a chance. They actually, and once Yuji and Yumiko have a daughter, they basically help him recover in that way. It's a really sweet ending. I really don't have any complaints with this route. Actually, this route is the best paced route. It never feels slow, it never feels unexciting, and every scene feels important. And her flashback is excellent. Her romance with Yuji is excellent. It might actually be the most well-balanced route in the game. I don't really have many complaints about it at all. Other than that resolution, which, like I said before, this game isn't really about the resolutions as much as it is about the conflicts. I think that's the main weakness about this game, is it's really about the conflicts, not about the resolutions. And that's a little in my opinion. I wish they spent a little more time on the resolutions, made them a little more meaningful outside of Sachi, but whatever. It's a good route. Definitely liked it a lot. No real complaints with it. Machina. Now, from what I read, a lot of people said this was the most interesting route in the game, and so I was really excited for it. And unfortunately, this was the route I was the most disappointed with. And I hate to be like this. It's like I'm not trying to go against popularity or whatever, you know. I feel like I did that with Lucia's route. I didn't really care for it too much in Rewrite, and I'm doing it here, and I did it with Kotori and If My Heart Had Wings. I'm like, maybe I'm just way too different. But I will explain why I had a big problem with Makina's route. Number one, it's superbly slow-paced. Superbly. They could have trimmed out almost the entire beginning of her route, and it wouldn't have, or at least trimmed it down. They couldn't have, maybe not take it out, but trimmed it a lot. The very first, 2 hours of it are basically just a continuation of the common route, and I had no problem with the common route, but, I wanted things to get rolling a little, and it didn't really feel like Makina's route at this point. It felt like just a continuation of the common route because all the other girls are just as involved in it as she is. But basically what happens is Makina decides to buy Yuji because she wants him to be her father, or play father. Yeah, kind of awkward, I'm guessing. But in reality, she wants him to be her lover too, so, she just calls him Papa, but you know what she wants. I mean, she wants him to do the father role and the lover role. He doesn't want anything but that. And, basically, Yuji, secretly, he does not know how to raise a kid, but he decides he's gonna train her and stuff with paintball training, sniping training, all that stuff. Get her to exercise and all that stuff so she can be an upstanding adult, because that's what he thinks makes an upstanding adult. Yeah, it's the bonding thing is nice, but it is done so slowly and kind of ineffectively. I'm gonna have to tell you that because the problem with their bonding isn't the initial bonding, but the fact that it's slow, so you expect it to build up to something a little more complicated, but it really doesn't. And so it just feels slow for almost no reason. And that really bored me, honestly. This was the first route I legitimately was really bored on for a long time. And it isn't until Makina's sister, first she starts working at a bakery, right? And this is how she kind of grows up and learns, doesn't grow up, but she kind of expands her horizons, and that's kind of what you would think this route's all about, is Makina expanding her horizons, but not really, unfortunately. I mean, it's called Seed of the World Tree. Wouldn't you say that'd be about expanding your horizons? But whatever. And eventually, she meets her sister again, but doesn't say anything. And what happens is her sister gets caught in a car explosion and is severely hurt. And cool, whatever. I mean, not cool, but this is tragic for Makina. I mean, she doesn't really know her sister or anything, but the problem is that she was the heir, because Makina was not the heir anymore, not the real heir. Because she has too many psychological problems, or had too many psychological problems. And, she was the heir, and now Makina's the only one who can be the heir now. Well, not the only one, but her sister is not in the shape to be the heir of this horrible company that, pretty much owns the country, it seems, or it's one of those extremely extravagant companies, it's really over the top, even more than Yumiko's route. So, her mother doesn't necessarily want her back. Her mother's a big bitch, by the way, but it's basically split into two factions of families, like a branch family, a main family, who don't want her in, but the branch family wants her in. I forget how it completely works. I think the main family wants her in, but the branch family doesn't. Whatever. As you can tell, it's already like Yumiko's route. In fact, it's almost exactly like Yumiko's route. Except there's some problems, but I'll get into those later. So the conflict Makina is dealing with is whether she should go back or not. She doesn't want to go back, but it might be better because, unfortunately, the Branch family really doesn't want her to go back. They want her out of the picture or something, so they keep on trolling her and stuff. They do things to the people around her so that, you know, they like shoot up the bakery with a bunch of gangsters, and then they eventually burn it down. And it's this emotionally traumatic scene for Makina because the bakery that she loved got burned down. And unfortunately, this scene is not very effective, and I'm going to tell you one of the problems with the route. You never see Makina work at this bakery. Like, you never see her work at this bakery. And so, you know, you get told that she's really attached to this bakery, but you're never really shown much of the attachment Makina has to this bakery. This is a lot more different than, you know, any of the other traumatic events in the other routes where, you know, Michiru is really attached to the kitty cat that she's with, you know, and when it dies, you know, it's not nearly as effective, or when, you know, Yumiko is, you know, with her mother's situation or her father's situation and her friend's situation. It's definitely not as effective because it doesn't have the proper amount of effort put into it. And that's the problem with this route. It doesn't really put any depth into anything. It just kind of tells you as it is and kind of just shows you really quickly, and it won't actually go into any depth, and it's hard to really get attached to it. Yes, this route is, you know, more dynamic because it has more events happen in it, and that's probably why people like it a little more, because it has a lot more events and it has more Yuji in it, but the events don't have a lot of depth, and I'll go into that a little more. For example, her mother, where, you know, Yuji has a conversation with her, big bitch, whatever. They don't have, she's just a shallow version of Yumiko's father, really. That's really all she is. And she forever remains a shallow version of Yumiko's father. She has no depth to her character at all. She's just a big bitch, you know? And then, well, what happens? Yuji decides to run away with Makina because, you know, they're getting trolled, and so it goes, the company that Yuji's working with is chasing after him, and it's a little more action-based because of this. And it's very much like Yumiko's route, except instead of going into Yuji and Makina's relationship like it did with Yuji and Yumiko, it focuses more on them getting chased, them getting the company interaction that he works with. And this would have been fine, but the company that he works with isn't very interesting at all. It just seems kind of like a standard company with a boss, and, you know, and they're just really effective. There's nothing really interesting about it, which was really disappointing. I'm sure there is more interesting things about it, but they really don't show up much. I mean, it's not much, I'm gonna have to say. I was a little disappointed with that part. But yeah. And while they're getting chased, something happens. They outsmart their pursuers a couple of times, but when they leave this one hotel that they got chased into and that they got out of, Makina forgot the apple tree seedling that Sachi gave her. And this is really traumatic for her because this is how they would meet up with her. This is how she thinks that she would meet up with her friends again when, it's just her symbol of hope, kind of. And, you know, you already know she's gonna be incredibly stupid and go back for it on her own. And while Yuji is out hunting their pursuers one night, he comes back to one of the other hotels they're staying at, and what do you know, Makina's not there. She decides to go for that apple tree and go pick it up. And what happens? She gets caught and she gets shot. Gee, this is what we call plot-induced stupidity, okay? There is just, like, she has no brains. She's not thinking at all. This is just dumb, okay? And this wouldn't be so bad if this part of the game wasn't taking itself seriously, and which it is, and it wouldn't be so bad if there was a proper build-up to it. The build-up is, like, she thinks that she needs to do things on her own. She can't be a burden on Yuji, much like Yumiko. Except Yumiko's burden on Yuji was built up slowly, and that's when she made that phone call that was stupid. It made sense, because it wasn't just plot-induced stupidity, it was actually built up to. They actually wrote to that point. Here, it's just Makina being dumb for the sake of plot points. Yuji comes to her, and JB arrives. How does JB arrive? Because they picked up this apple seedling tree in the company, and this guy in the basement said, "Take it back." Yeah, because they knew they were gonna come back for it. Come on, this was the laziest writing ever. Like, they were just making up plot points to get them to this place. It was so dumb. Like, I was looking at this part, I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? You know, is this the best they can come up with? Could they not build up to this? I mean, this route is longer than the other routes, I'm pretty sure, and yet they don't spend any time building up to anything. They just spend time writing more events. And the thing is, yeah, you can have a lot of dramatic events, but if the events have no substance to them, they're kind of worthless. You know, sure, it's good for entertainment, but it's, you know, not good for any depth, and that's not the kind of visual novel this is. It's not really made for pure entertainment, you know? But Yuji comes back, Makina gets taken to the hospital, Yuji decides that he needs to kill Makina's mom so that the corporation will fall apart and they won't be hunting for Makina anymore. However, you know, if you choose the good ending, then Yuji realizes he cannot kill people anymore. He sneaks in there, isn't able to kill her, breaks out, and, Makina wakes up from the hospital, goes to meet him, and they go off and basically live together. However, not all is good, because Makina has to be an agent for Ichigaya, because they wouldn't be able to live their life without it. And that they wouldn't be able to hide without Ichigaya's help. I don't know why Ichigaya would decide to help them randomly, but I guess they will. I thought they would be pissed at Yuji and wouldn't want to help him, but I guess JB's influence is that good. And unfortunately, this ending is kind of empty. I feel like it's not even a happy ending. It's not really a bittersweet ending. It's just kind of an empty ending. Yeah, they're together, but there's no hint that they'll ever see their friends again. And there's, you know, she still has to work for an agent and go off and kill people. And it's like, wow, is she actually happy doing this? I mean, it ends with a gunshot. I don't know what I think it was trying to have a dark ending, but I don't know. Yuji lost his arm because it got shot up by a shotgun or something, and I don't know. It was kind of just nothing. The ending was really nothing. It didn't feel happy. Their romance never felt even remotely believable. And it was like the relationship as a brother-sister, that wasn't so bad, but as a romance, I don't see it working at all, quite honestly. It feels like they just kind of there to lick each other's wounds in a way. But, yeah, not a great ending at all. And this was the ending I ended the game on, so it was a bad last impression. So overall, I was just so disappointed with Makina's route. Yes, they give you a little more tidbits about Yuji, but they don't give you enough. It's like they're giving you like a fifth of the full story in this route. I guess that's why people like it, because they learn more about Yuji too. And it's like, but they're not giving you the full story, and you already know the sequel is what's gonna give you the full story, so it feels like, just feels like half-assed. And you know how I didn't even mention the flashback? That's because her flashback is 20 minutes long at most. All it is, and it's really short. Well, I just said it's really short, but it's not that. They didn't go into it very much. They didn't go into her psychology or anything like they did with the other girls, you know? And it was really disappointing that they did not even put even a remote amount of effort into it that they did with the other girls. And that's the whole thing. Makina's character ends up being incredibly shallow compared to the other four girls. Like, incredibly so. It's like, could they have not gone into her like psychological state through all of this? I guess she was just kind of an empty shell after her father was killed in front of her and rotted in front of her. But I don't know, it wasn't even really, you didn't even get to hear that many thoughts about her during the flashback because it was mainly the gangster and him talking, you know? It was a really, really disappointing flashback. It was like, wow, like it wasn't bad. Her route is not bad. It's good, in fact, but it's just, compared to the other 4 girls, it's completely lacking in any substance. Nothing feels like they did a lot with it. The only good thing about this route compared to the other routes is it feels like Yuji doesn't really have a resolution for this route. But that's the thing, that's another weakness though, is that there really isn't any resolution for this route. It's just an empty ending that feels like, well, they don't seem happy at all, really. Like, they might seem happy, I guess you could see, but they're not really. That seems, and the bad ending's just messed up, so, but it was entertaining. I mean, freaking pregnant woman, you know, delusioning over dead Yuji, and, you know, going off while she's pregnant to kill people. I'm like, what kind of company lets a pregnant woman? I mean, I know they're a dark company, but it doesn't seem like a very effective use of personnel by, let's use a pregnant woman. I'm sure they're really good in the field, you know? So dumb. How did she get pregnant in the bad ending but not pregnant in the good ending? I don't even understand that. I feel like they just did that to make the bad ending more messed up, seem more messed up. But yeah, not a great route. The other 4 routes, they're great. This route, not so much. It's just too little detail put into it, unfortunately, which is a shame. Makina is a good side character, not a good heroine, unfortunately. Not a good character to put a focus on. There's just not enough depth to her to make her that interesting. And that's Grisaia in a nutshell. I know I speeded over some things. This game is so long, I just, you know, there is a lot more depth to what I said, obviously. Obviously, most of you have already read this part. You know what I'm talking about anyway. And, yeah, it was a good visual novel. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I was disappointed with Makina's route, but that was the only route I was disappointed with, which is saying something. This actually is probably the most well-balanced visual novel I've played, and I really like it when they spend more time on characters, so I did not mind the length. Sometimes the pacing was a little slow, like I said before, but overall, good stuff. I really enjoyed Amane's. I really want to read the sequels. I'm tempted to just atlas them because I can't read Japanese. I can understand Japanese a good bit, but I can't read it. But then again, I'm thinking maybe I should just wait. It's disappointing. I want to see more. I want to see the end of the story. I want to see the rest of Yuji's past, and I want to see the end of how this story works. But for now, I'll just say it ends on a good note for the most part. It is good. I would recommend reading Yumiko or Amane's route last if you can, and I would read Makina's first, quite honestly. And yeah, not much to say other than that. Unfortunately, I think I'm out of English visual novels for me to read, so I guess I'll have to review one of the ones I've already read and wait for something else to get translated. Alright, thanks for watching. See you later.